The Quiet God-Tier Teacher. Volume 2, The Hidden Schools Exchange. After the Friendship Festival ends, Class 7Z is no longer known as the Academy's worst class, they have become the Academy's most promising class. Their kindness, teamwork, and rapid growth attract the attention of the hidden world. As a reward, Astra Academy receives an invitation to the Hidden Schools Exchange, an event held once every 10 years where the world's greatest hidden academies gather. Students exchange knowledge, participate in friendly competitions, solve mysteries together, and learn about different cultures and magic systems. Kael only wishes for a peaceful educational trip. Unfortunately, every hidden school knows the legend of the mysterious, silent guardian, a title Kael abandoned years ago. While the students make new friends and rivals, mysterious incidents begin occurring during the exchange. Ancient barriers weaken, forbidden creatures appear, and someone seems determined to reveal Kael's past. This volume focuses on student growth, friendships between schools, world building, and the first hints of the larger conflict, while preserving the heartwarming teacher-student relationships that define the series. Chapter 1, Invitation from the Hidden Council. The peaceful days returned to Astra Academy. Several weeks had passed since the Friendship Festival. The restored Memorial Garden had become the Academy's favorite place. Students from every class gathered there during breaks. Flowers bloomed brightly. Birds nested in the ancient trees. Laughter echoed through the once forgotten garden. No one called it the abandoned garden anymore. Now everyone simply called it the Garden of Class 7Z. Early one quiet morning, Kael Ashford knelt beside a flower bed with a small watering can. He hummed softly as he watered the lilies Mira and Yuna had planted. A tiny blue bird landed on his shoulder. "Good morning." The bird chirped happily. Kael smiled. "You've brought your family today." Several chicks hopped down beside him, pecking gently at scattered seeds. To anyone watching, he looked like an ordinary countryside teacher enjoying a peaceful morning. Exactly how Kael preferred it. Unfortunately, peace never lasted long around him. "Professor Kael." A familiar voice echoed across the garden. Principal Alaric hurried toward him, carrying an elegant silver envelope sealed with 12 glowing crests. He looked unusually serious. Kael sighed quietly. "That can't be good." Alaric stopped beside him. "I've been looking everywhere. I assumed I'd find you here." Kael looked at the flowers. They needed water. "The Academy can survive another hour without me." Alaric chuckled. "I wish the Hidden Council agreed." At the mention of the Hidden Council, Kael's smile faded slightly. He accepted the envelope. The seal shimmered with ancient magic. 12 symbols surrounded a silver star. Even after years, Kael recognized it immediately. "The Council." Alaric nodded. "They've sent an official invitation." Kael slowly broke the seal. Ancient golden letters floated into the air. "To Astra Academy. You are formally invited to participate in the 10th Hidden Schools Exchange. Represent your academy with 2 first-year classes. The exchange will be hosted at the World Academy 1 month from today. Signed by the 12-member Hidden Council." The glowing letters slowly disappeared. Silence filled the garden. Kael quietly folded the letter. "I was hoping they'd forget." Alaric laughed. "The Hidden Council forgets nothing." A short while later, the Academy's great bell rang 12 times. Every student gathered inside the Grand Assembly Hall. More than 1,000 students filled the enormous room. Curious whispers spread through the crowd. "What's happening? Did someone break another building?" Kai slowly looked away. "Don't look at me." Leon grinned. "I wasn't even there." Theo adjusted his glasses. "Statistically, both of you are still the most likely suspects." Laughter spread through Class 7Z. Principal Alaric stepped onto the stage. Beside him stood Kael. The hall gradually became silent. Alaric smiled warmly. "I have wonderful news. Our academy has received an invitation to the Hidden Schools Exchange." The hall erupted. "The exchange? It only happens every 10 years. We're finally going." Even many teachers looked excited. Alaric raised a hand. "The Hidden Schools Exchange gathers 12 hidden academies from across the world. It is not merely a competition. It is an opportunity to learn, to share knowledge, to build friendships, to understand one another." He paused. "This year, Astra Academy will send 2 first-year classes." Everyone immediately understood. Moments later, 2 banners unfurled from the ceiling. "Class A, Class 7Z." The hall became completely silent. Then, Thunderous applause filled the academy. Class A smiled confidently. Adrian bowed politely toward his classmates. We won't disappoint everyone. His class nodded proudly. Inside Class 7Z, Arya nearly jumped out of her seat. We're really going. Kai laughed. I've never left the academy before. Felix smiled shyly. I wonder what the other schools are like. Lilia clapped excitedly. I want to make new friends. Noah looked both nervous and excited. I hope I don't embarrass everyone. Mira quietly closed her book. It sounds interesting. Leon looked at Kael. So, when do we leave? Kael smiled. In 1 month. The students cheered. The excitement continued throughout the academy. Teachers discussed travel plans. Students exchanged rumors about the mysterious World Academy. Some claimed dragons lived there. Others said floating islands surrounded the campus. One rumor even insisted the library was larger than an entire kingdom. Theo immediately began making a list. I need at least 6 notebooks. Kai peeked over his shoulder. You're bringing the library home. That afternoon, Class 7Z gathered beneath the large oak tree in their memorial garden. Everyone talked excitedly. Lilia imagined giant magical festivals. Arya wanted to ride dragons. Kai wondered if foreign students liked spicy food. Felix hoped to learn new baking recipes. Even Darius quietly admitted he wanted to see the famous spirit forest. Kael listened with a gentle smile. Then, he quietly asked, what do you think is most important? The students looked at one another. Winning, learning, making friends. Leon finally answered. Coming home together. Kael smiled. Exactly. Just then, Adrian and several members of Class A approached. Congratulations. Leon grinned. You too. Adrian nodded. It seems we'll be traveling together. Kai laughed. Try not to get tired of us. Cecilia folded her arms. I make no promises. Everyone laughed. Even Cecilia smiled slightly. The rivalry between the two classes had become comfortable. Friendly. Exactly as Kael had hoped. That evening, inside the faculty office, several teachers discussed preparations. Maps covered the tables. Travel schedules. Accommodation lists. Security plans. One teacher looked toward Kael. Professor Ashford, I've heard you've visited the World Academy before. Silence. Kael quietly sipped his tea. A long time ago. Another teacher smiled. Then you'll guide us. Kael nearly choked on his tea. I'd rather guide my flowers. The teachers laughed. Principal Alaric smiled knowingly. You'll do just fine. Far away, within a magnificent chamber high above the clouds, 12 cloaked figures sat around a circular table of white stone. The hidden council. One elder slowly opened his eyes. So, Kael Ashford has accepted. Another nodded. Then the exchange will become interesting. A third elder frowned. Or dangerous. None of them spoke further. They simply gazed toward the distant horizon, where the World Academy awaited, and where old secrets would soon begin to awaken. Chapter 2, The Sky Train. The month passed more quickly than anyone expected. Every student selected for the hidden schools exchange spent the weeks preparing. Some trained harder than ever. Others studied foreign cultures and magical customs. Theo filled 3 notebooks with information about the World Academy. Kai secretly packed twice as many snacks as clothes. Arya somehow packed 3 stuffed animals. Leon brought only 1 small bag. How? Kai stared. That's all you're bringing? Leon shrugged. I've got uniforms. What about pajamas? I'll sleep in my training clothes. Felix sighed. I'll lend you some. Everyone laughed. Long before sunrise, Astra Academy was already awake. Teachers carried luggage. Students gathered in the central courtyard. Parents who lived nearby came to see them off. The atmosphere was filled with excitement. At the front stood Principal Alaric. Beside him, Kael calmly watered the academy flowers one last time before leaving. Alaric smiled. You know, we're leaving in 5 minutes. Kael nodded. They'll be thirsty while I'm away. You really love flowers. They've never caused me paperwork. The nearby teachers burst into laughter. The academy gates slowly opened. Beyond them, a railway platform shimmered into existence. Golden tracks stretched upward into the clouds. Students gasped. I've never seen this before. Neither had most teachers. Then, a distant whistle echoed across the sky. Woo! Everyone looked up. Something enormous emerged from the clouds. It wasn't an ordinary train. It floated. Its silver body shimmered with ancient runes. Crystal windows reflected the morning sunlight. Golden wings of magic extended from both sides. Instead of smoke, it left behind sparkling stardust. The legendary Sky Train. Arya's eyes sparkled. It's beautiful. Felix whispered. It looks like a palace. Theo was already writing furiously. Runic propulsion. Cloud compression. Impossible engineering. Kai simply grinned. I want one. The train slowly stopped at the platform. The doors opened with a soft chime. A cheerful conductor stepped outside. He wore an elegant navy uniform decorated with silver stars. Welcome aboard the Celestial Express. He bowed politely. Destination: the World Academy. The students eagerly boarded. Inside, the train was even more incredible. Soft velvet seats, crystal chandeliers, bookshelves, tea lounges, indoor gardens, large windows revealing endless skies. It felt less like transportation, and more like a luxurious hotel floating through the heavens. Class 7Z quickly gathered around one window. As the train departed, Astra Academy slowly disappeared beneath the clouds. Arya waved enthusiastically. Bye. Kai laughed. I don't think the school can see you. I'm waving anyway. Outside, mountains drifted beneath them like tiny hills. Clouds floated beside the windows. Birds flew alongside the train. Some magical creatures even raced it playfully. A pair of silver griffins soared past. Then a family of giant sky whales glided gracefully through the clouds. Noah pressed both hands against the glass. They're amazing. Kael quietly smiled. The sky is larger than most people imagine. The students nodded silently. Hours later, the train slowed, not because of a station, but because another sky train approached from the opposite direction. The two trains connected in midair through glowing magical bridges. Theo nearly dropped his notebook. That's impossible. Kael smiled. Apparently not. Students from another academy began crossing the bridge. Their uniforms were emerald green with silver embroidery. Each carried a small badge shaped like a leaf. A cheerful girl bowed politely. Hello. We're from the Spirit Academy. Arya immediately waved. Hi. Within minutes, students from both academies were chatting happily. A boy with pale green hair approached Sarah. I heard you can talk to plants. Sarah nodded shyly. A little. He smiled. I'm Rowan. I grow spirit trees. Her eyes widened. Really? The two quickly became absorbed in conversation about magical forests. Nearby, Rin noticed another student surrounded by tiny fox spirits. They're adorable. The girl smiled. They're curious. One tiny fox jumped onto Rin's shoulder. Its fluffy tail tickled her cheek. She giggled softly. Leon found himself standing beside a tall red-haired student. The boy smiled confidently. I'm Axel, fire user. Leon nodded. You. Axel snapped his fingers. A tiny blue flame danced above his palm. Leon grinned. This trip just became interesting. They immediately began discussing training methods instead of competing. Elsewhere, Theo had somehow gathered 5 engineering students around a table. They enthusiastically debated magical transportation. Kai walked past. Nerd convention. Theo didn't even hear him. Meanwhile, Kael quietly enjoyed a cup of tea. He watched his students naturally making friends. Exactly what he had hoped for. Suddenly, the train gave a sharp jolt. Crack! One of the crystal engines beneath the train flickered. Several passengers stumbled. The conductor's smile disappeared. Engine 7. A loud alarm echoed. Magical runes dimmed. The floating train slowly began losing altitude. Panic spread through several passenger cars. Teachers immediately stood. What's happening? The conductor remained calm. Please stay seated. We're experiencing a minor mana imbalance. But his worried expression told a different story. Without saying anything, Kael quietly placed his teacup down. He walked toward a nearby observation balcony. No one paid much attention. Everyone was focused on the shaking train. Outside, a tiny crack had formed across one of the ancient runic engines. Kael gently touched it with one finger. You're tired. Soft silver light flowed into the crystal. The crack disappeared instantly. The engine hummed peacefully. The train stabilized. Its speed returned to normal. Kael smiled. There. That should last another century. He quietly returned inside before anyone noticed. Only one person had seen everything. A young silver-haired conductor apprentice. He stared speechlessly through the window. What? Who? Before he could say anything, the senior conductor called him. Hurry. We're serving lunch. The apprentice blinked. All right. But he couldn't stop glancing toward Kael. The rest of the journey continued peacefully. Students laughed, shared stories, exchanged academy badges, promised to visit one another's schools someday. By evening, friendships had already begun forming, exactly as the hidden schools exchange was meant to encourage. As the sun began setting, the conductor made one final announcement. We will arrive at the World Academy tomorrow morning. Excited whispers spread throughout every carriage. No one wanted to sleep. Everyone wanted to see the legendary academy. Everyone, except Kael. He quietly leaned against the window, closed his eyes, and hoped, just hoped, that this exchange would remain peaceful. Far ahead, hidden beyond the golden clouds, the lights of the World Academy slowly came into view. A new chapter of their journey was about to begin. Chapter 3, Arrival at the World Academy. The first rays of morning sunlight spread across the endless sea of clouds. Most of the students aboard the Celestial Express had barely slept. Some had stayed awake talking with their new friends. Others had spent the night staring through the windows, hoping to catch the first glimpse of the legendary World Academy. Inside one carriage, Kai yawned loudly. I think I slept, maybe 20 minutes. Theo looked up from a book. I slept exactly 23 minutes. You actually counted. Naturally. Leon laughed. You two are hopeless. Nearby, Arya pressed her face against the window. Are we there yet? The conductor smiled warmly. Very soon. Kael quietly sipped a cup of tea. He glanced out the window. Beyond the clouds, he could already see it. It's changed. His soft whisper went unnoticed. A long whistle echoed through the sky. The Celestial Express began slowing down. The clouds ahead slowly parted. One by one, the students stood from their seats. Then, they saw it. An enormous floating continent rested high above the clouds. Not one island. Hundreds. Massive floating islands were connected by shimmering bridges of crystal. Towering waterfalls poured into the sky before transforming into glittering mist. Ancient castles stood beside sleek magical research towers. Great forests covered entire islands. Some islands drifted lazily around the central landmass as if they were moons orbiting a planet. At the very center, a magnificent academy stretched farther than the eye could see. White marble buildings, golden domes, silver spires, giant trees taller than mountains. Everything glowed beneath the morning sun. Silence filled the train. Even Kai forgot to speak. Arya's eyes sparkled. It's beautiful. Noah whispered. It doesn't even feel real. Felix smiled softly. It's like another world. Even Mira quietly lowered her book. Magnificent. The conductor proudly announced. Welcome to the World Academy. The train slowly entered a floating station surrounded by flowering trees and crystal platforms. As soon as the doors opened, a gentle breeze carrying the scent of flowers drifted inside. Birds with glowing feathers flew overhead. Small spirit creatures floated happily between visitors. Students from every hidden academy filled the station. Dozens of different uniforms, different languages, different magic, different cultures. Yet everyone smiled with the same excitement. As Class 7Z stepped onto the platform, their eyes wandered everywhere. Arya nearly chased a glowing butterfly. Kai stared at a floating food cart. Theo immediately began sketching the station's architecture. Lilia excitedly greeted students she had met on the Sky Train. Leon looked around curiously. So many strong people. Kael smiled. So many teachers too. Leon laughed. Right. A cheerful woman wearing elegant white robes approached the Astra delegation. She bowed gracefully. Welcome to the World Academy. I am Professor Celestine. I will serve as your guide during the exchange. Principal Alaric returned the bow. It is an honor. Professor Celestine smiled warmly at the students. We hope your stay becomes one of your happiest memories. Then, she looked toward Kael. For just a brief moment, her smile froze. Professor. Kael politely nodded. Good morning. She quickly recovered. Welcome back. The students blinked. Back. Before anyone could ask, Celestine turned away. Please follow me. The group crossed a magnificent crystal bridge. Below them, cloud whales floated peacefully. Students rode giant birds between islands. Magical ships sailed through the sky. The entire academy felt alive. Their first stop, the ancient Grand Library. The building alone was larger than Astra Academy's entire main campus. Shelves stretched endlessly upward. Books floated through the air on their own. Tiny book spirits carefully organized countless volumes. Theo stood completely frozen. Kai nudged him. Theo, leave me. I live here now. Everyone burst into laughter. Next, they visited the spirit forest. Unlike ordinary forests, every tree possessed gentle awareness. When students approached, the branches lowered slightly in greeting. Small spirits happily danced around visitors. Sarah smiled brighter than anyone had ever seen. They're talking. They're welcoming us. She carefully touched one ancient tree. Soft green light surrounded her. The tree gently produced a single glowing flower and placed it in her hands. Professor Celestine smiled. The forest likes you. Nearby, Rin quietly knelt beside a family of white fox spirits. The tiny creatures happily surrounded her. One climbed onto her head. Another curled up in her lap. Kai laughed. They've adopted you. Rin smiled shyly. I don't mind. Their final stop before lunch. The Sky Dragon Sanctuary. The students gasped. Dozens of enormous dragons rested peacefully upon floating cliffs. Silver dragons. Emerald dragons. Golden dragons. Tiny baby dragons tumbled playfully through the grass. None of them appeared violent. Instead, they looked calm, wise, majestic. Arya's mouth fell open. Can we pet one? Professor Celestine smiled. If they allow it. A tiny emerald dragon waddled toward Kael. Without hesitation, it rubbed its head against his leg like a puppy. The larger dragons slowly lowered their heads respectfully. Silence. Every nearby dragon caretaker stared. What? Professor Celestine quickly coughed. Professor Ashford has always been good with animals. Kael gently scratched the tiny dragon behind its horns. You're getting bigger. The dragon chirped happily. Leon blinked. Teacher, do dragons know you? Kael smiled innocently. I've met a few. The students exchanged suspicious looks. A few. After lunch, the exchange students were shown their dormitories. Each academy occupied one elegant residence overlooking the floating gardens. Class A and Class 7Z shared the Astra residence. The rooms were spacious, comfortable, filled with sunlight. Every balcony overlooked the endless clouds. Arya immediately claimed a window seat. Kai found the snack cupboard. Felix quietly began unpacking everyone's belongings. Noah stood on the balcony. I've never seen the sky this close. That evening, the exchange students gathered in the grand courtyard for a welcoming celebration. Music echoed through the floating islands. Food from every hidden nation filled hundreds of tables. Students introduced themselves, shared traditions, exchanged gifts. Laughter filled the air, exactly as the hidden schools exchange had intended. As the celebration continued, Kael quietly stepped away. He walked alone toward one of the oldest sections of the academy. An ancient stone archway covered in vines. He gently touched the weathered stone. You're still here. The runes carved into the arch briefly glowed, almost as if recognizing him. Far away, hidden deep beneath the World Academy, something ancient stirred. A faint heartbeat echoed through forgotten ruins. Once, twice, then, silence. Unaware of what had just awakened, the students continued enjoying the happiest night of their journey. Their adventure at the World Academy had only just begun. Chapter 4, 12 Schools, 12 Ideals. The morning sun illuminated the floating islands of the World Academy. Golden light reflected across crystal bridges that connected dozens of islands suspended above the clouds. Birds with shimmering feathers sang cheerful melodies. Students from every hidden academy filled the walkways, proudly wearing the colors of their schools. Today was the day everyone had been waiting for. The opening assembly of the Hidden Schools Exchange. Inside the Astra residence, Class 7Z had already gathered. Kai stood in front of the mirror, straightening his uniform. Do I look cool? Leon glanced at him. You've asked that 5 times. But do I? Arya laughed. You look fine. Theo adjusted his glasses. The probability of your appearance changing within 30 seconds is statistically insignificant. Kai sighed dramatically. I miss when you weren't so smart. Everyone laughed. Kael quietly entered the room carrying a basket. Fresh bread, fruit, tea. The students smiled immediately. Our teacher brought breakfast. Kael nodded. No one should attend an important ceremony on an empty stomach. Felix smiled warmly. You're always thinking of us. Kael simply smiled. After breakfast, the Astra delegation followed Professor Celestine toward the Grand Assembly Plaza. The plaza was unlike anything they had ever imagined. At its center stood a colossal circular stage made of white crystal. 12 magnificent banners surrounded it. Each banner represented one of the participating academies. Thousands of students filled the enormous plaza. Yet, everything remained surprisingly peaceful. Professor Celestine stopped before the stage. "Today, you will meet every participating academy." She smiled. "Remember, every school has its own history, its own philosophy, and its own way of teaching." A ceremonial bell rang. The first banner unfurled. 1. Astra Academy. The blue and gold banner fluttered proudly. Principal Alaric stepped onto the stage. "Our belief, strength exists to protect." Class A and Class 7Z bowed together. Applause filled the plaza. 2. Sword Academy. A crimson banner appeared. Rows of disciplined students marched perfectly in formation. Their principal spoke firmly. "One sword, one heart, one purpose." Every movement demonstrated perfect discipline. Leon smiled. "They look strong." 3. Magic Research Academy. A silver banner floated into the air. Students surrounded by floating books and magical devices entered. Tiny constructs hovered beside them. Theo's eyes sparkled. "Paradise." Kai sighed. "We've lost him." 4. Beast Tamer Academy. An emerald green banner unfurled. Students arrived alongside wolves, lions, griffins, even enormous bears. The animals walked peacefully beside their partners. Rin smiled brightly. "They're amazing." One wolf wagged its tail at her. 5. Spirit Academy. Soft green banners danced gently in the wind. Tiny nature spirits floated happily around the students. Flowers bloomed wherever they walked. Sarah's eyes lit up. "They're beautiful." Rowan noticed her and waved enthusiastically. She shyly waved back. 6. Alchemist Academy. Golden banners shimmered. Students rolled strange magical machines onto the stage. Potions floated through the air. One experiment accidentally exploded into colorful smoke. Theo applauded. Kai immediately backed away. "I'm standing over here." 7. Divine Academy. White banners glowed softly. Students wore elegant robes embroidered with silver stars. Their presence felt peaceful. Many specialized in healing magic. Noah quietly watched them. "They're incredible." One Divine Academy student smiled warmly and bowed toward him. Noah quickly returned the bow. 8. Eastern Hidden Academy. Deep violet banners flowed gracefully. Students carried elegant fans, enchanted scrolls, and spirit talismans. Their movements resembled a dance. Arya whispered, "They're so graceful." 9. Northern Rune Academy. Dark blue banners appeared. Every student carried rune inscribed. Weapons. Glowing symbols floated around them. Theo immediately began sketching. Their rune patterns are completely different. 10. Southern Guardian Academy. Bronze banners fluttered proudly. Students wore heavy armor. Large magical shields rested on their backs. Their motto echoed confidently. "Stand firm. Protect others." Felix smiled. "I like them." 11. Ocean Academy. Turquoise banners shimmered like waves. Students walked accompanied by floating water spirits. Some even rode gentle sea serpents through magical portals. Arya gasped. "They brought sea dragons." 12. Celestial Academy. Finally, the last banner descended. Pure white trimmed with gold. Students walked quietly beneath countless floating stars. Their academy specialized in astronomy, ancient prophecy, and celestial magic. Even the atmosphere became calmer. Once all 12 schools had assembled, the headmaster of the World Academy stepped forward. An elderly man with kind silver eyes and snow-white hair. His name was Headmaster Orion. He smiled warmly. "Welcome to the 10th Hidden Schools Exchange." Thunderous applause filled the plaza. He continued, "Every academy teaches differently. Every student walks a different path. But today, you all stand beneath the same sky." He looked across every banner. "Compete, learn, teach, and most importantly, become friends." The ceremony officially concluded. Immediately, students rushed to explore the campus. No competitions today, only introductions, friendships, and discovery. Class 7Z walked through the academy grounds together. Everywhere they looked, something new amazed them. A dragon library, floating gardens, magical cafes, spirit parks, living statues that happily gave directions. Kai laughed. "I could live here forever." Kael smiled. "Let's survive the exchange first." Throughout the afternoon, The students met dozens of exchange participants. Leon discussed sword techniques with Sword Academy students. Theo eagerly debated magical engineering with the Research Academy. Sarah visited the Spirit Academy greenhouse. Rin played with Beast Academy companions. Noah quietly observed healing demonstrations at the Divine Academy. Each student discovered something that inspired them. As the sun began setting, Professor Celestine gathered everyone once more. Tomorrow, you will begin working together. Not as separate schools, but as one. The students exchanged excited glances. Mixed teams, new friendships, new lessons. The true purpose of the Hidden Schools exchange was finally about to begin. Later that night, Kael stood alone on a quiet balcony overlooking the floating islands. The lights of all 12 academies shimmered beneath the stars. It really has changed, he murmured softly. Behind him, an old voice spoke. It has. Kael slowly turned around. Standing there was Headmaster Orion. The elderly headmaster smiled knowingly. It's been many years. Silent guardian. Kael's expression became still. Please don't call me that. Orion chuckled gently. I thought you might say that. Far below, the students slept peacefully, completely unaware that someone at the World Academy already knew exactly who their quiet teacher truly was. Chapter 5. New Friends. Morning arrived gently over the floating islands of the World Academy. Sunlight poured through the crystal windows of the Astra residence, painting warm golden patterns across the floor. The academy was already alive. Students from every hidden school walked across the crystal bridges, laughing as they greeted friends they had made over the past few days. For the members of Class 7Z, today wasn't about competition. It was about meeting people, learning from them, and sharing their own stories. Inside the dining hall, a buffet stretched farther than the students could see. Fresh bread from the Southern Guardian Academy. Spirit fruit from the Spirit Academy. Ocean Academy seafood. Eastern Hidden Academy dumplings. Magical desserts from the Celestial Academy. Kai's eyes widened. This is paradise. Leon laughed. You haven't even started eating. Kai was already filling his third plate. Kael quietly sat with a cup of tea. Felix noticed he had barely touched the buffet. Professor, aren't you hungry? Kael smiled. I'm waiting. A few moments later, a tiny white bird landed beside him. Kael broke off a piece of bread and offered it gently. There you are. The bird chirped happily. Kai pointed dramatically. Our teacher skipped breakfast. For a bird. Kael shrugged. It was waiting. Everyone smiled. It was exactly something Kael would do. After breakfast, Professor Celestine gathered the exchange students. Today's activity is simple. No lessons. No competitions. I want every academy to spend the day making friends. Excited whispers spread through the plaza. Small groups naturally formed. Class 7Z split into pairs and trios as they explored the enormous campus. Leon's new friend. Leon wandered toward the outdoor training grounds. There, he found Axel from the Spirit Academy practicing with blue flames. Axel noticed him and grinned. Morning. Leon smiled. Want to train? Absolutely. The two spent the next hour exchanging techniques. Neither tried to overpower the other. Instead, they corrected one another's mistakes. When Leon's flames became unstable, Axel offered advice. When Axel's footwork faltered, Leon demonstrated a better stance. By lunchtime, both had improved. Mira and the quiet scholar. Meanwhile, Mira wandered into the grand library. As expected, she found another student sitting quietly in the corner surrounded by ancient books. A silver-haired girl looked up. You enjoy silence too? Mira nodded. It's peaceful. The girl introduced herself. My name is Celine. I'm from the Celestial Academy. Without another word, the two quietly continued reading together. Sometimes, friendship required very few words. Noah learns new healing. At the Divine Academy Pavilion, Noah watched several students practicing advanced healing magic. A gentle boy named Lucian noticed him. You study healing? A little. Lucian smiled warmly. Would you like to practice together? For hours, the two exchanged techniques. Lucian demonstrated efficient mana control. Noah shared the calming methods Kael had taught him. Both learned something new. Rin's animal friends. Near the beast sanctuary, Rin found herself surrounded by magical creatures once again. A cheerful beast tamer student named Freya introduced her companions. This is Moss. A giant bear waved politely. And this is Pico. A tiny owl landed on Rin's shoulder. The two girls spent the afternoon brushing griffins, feeding young wolves, and laughing whenever baby foxes stole their snacks. Sarah's greenhouse. Sarah returned to the spirit garden. Rowan welcomed her enthusiastically. I've been waiting. He proudly showed her an ancient spirit tree. The massive tree shimmered softly. When Sarah gently placed her hand upon its trunk, tiny glowing leaves drifted around her. Rowan smiled. The forest trusts you. Sarah blushed. I'm happy. Theo's paradise. Theo somehow disappeared. Kai eventually found him, inside a magical engineering workshop, surrounded by researchers, floating machines, ancient blueprints, half-built magical engines. Theo looked happier than anyone had ever seen him. I've found my people. Kai sighed. I knew we'd lose him. Arya makes everyone smile. Arya needed no special activity. She simply walked around introducing herself. Within hours, students from 6 different academies knew her name. She organized games, started conversations, shared snacks. Even shy students eventually smiled around her. Kael quietly watched from afar. She's remarkable. Professor Celestine nodded. Some people possess magic, others possess warmth. Lunch beneath the world tree. By noon, students from every academy gathered beneath the enormous world tree. Its branches stretched across several floating islands. Its leaves shimmered with every color imaginable. Everyone shared food, stories, dreams. Laughter echoed beneath its shade. Leon traded spicy recipes with Axel. Felix shared homemade bread. Kai challenged several students to a snack-eating contest. He lost. Impossible. The Ocean Academy students laughed. We've trained for festivals. As everyone relaxed, Headmaster Orion quietly approached Kael. You've done well. Kael looked confused. I've only been making tea. Orion smiled. You've also been teaching. Kael glanced toward his students. Leon laughing. Mira smiling faintly beside Celine. Noah discussing healing. Sarah talking to Rowan. Theo enthusiastically explaining a design. Rin surrounded by animals. Arya making everyone laugh. Kael smiled softly. They're teaching one another. Exactly. Later that afternoon, the students exchanged small gifts before returning to their dormitories. Academy badges, handmade charms, books, seeds, rune stones. Each gift represented the beginning of a new friendship. That evening, Class 7Z gathered on the balcony of the Astra residence. The floating islands glowed beneath thousands of magical lanterns. Kai leaned against the railing. I thought we'd spend the whole exchange competing. Leon nodded. Me too. Felix smiled. I like this better. Noah quietly added. I don't want these friendships to end. Kael looked at the 12 students. When you return home, distance won't erase true friendship. It simply gives you another place to visit. The students smiled. Far below the academy, hidden beneath layers of ancient stone, a faint pulse echoed once more. This time, the ancient ruins remained awake a little longer. Invisible runes slowly illuminated the darkness. Watching, waiting, responding, to the quiet teacher who had unknowingly returned. But above ground, none of the students noticed. Tonight, their hearts were filled only with excitement. Tomorrow, the first mixed team challenge would begin. And students from all 12 schools would stand side by side. Chapter 6, Mixed Team Challenge. Morning arrived with clear blue skies over the World Academy. The floating islands drifted peacefully through the sea of clouds as magical bells echoed across the campus. Today marked the beginning of the first official event of the Hidden Schools Exchange. Unlike the Friendship Festival at Astra Academy, students would not compete beside their classmates. Instead, they would work with complete strangers. Inside the Grand Assembly Plaza, thousands of students gathered around a massive crystal stage. Headmaster Orion stepped forward. His warm smile reached every corner of the plaza. Good morning. The purpose of today's challenge is trust. He raised his hand. 12 glowing crystal orbs floated into the air. They say true strength appears when familiar faces disappear. So today, you will not fight beside your classmates. You will fight beside people you've only just met. Excited whispers spread through the crowd. Kai grinned. This is going to be chaos. Theo adjusted his glasses. Highly educational chaos. Headmaster Orion continued. Each team will consist of students from different academies. You will succeed only through cooperation. No academy can win alone. The students nodded. That was the true purpose of the exchange. One by one, the crystal orbs began shining. Each orb displayed the names of students assigned to the same team. Team 1, Leon, Astra Academy. Axel, Spirit Academy. Freya, Beast Tamer Academy. Lucian, Divine Academy. Kai whistled. That's a strong team. Leon smiled. I'm looking forward to it. Team 2, Mira, Astra Academy. Celine, Celestial Academy. Elias, Class A. A Rune Academy strategist named Eric. Mira quietly nodded. Interesting. Team 3, Noah, Astra Academy. A healer from Ocean Academy. A guardian from Southern Guardian Academy. An alchemist from Alchemist Academy. Noah smiled nervously. I'll do my best. Team 4, Theo. An engineer from Magic Research Academy. A rune craftsman. An alchemist inventor. Theo nearly cried. This is the happiest day of my life. Kai laughed. I knew it. Team 5, Arya. A Spirit Academy dancer. A celestial musician. An Ocean Academy illusionist. Within minutes, they were already laughing together. Team 6, Felix, Rin, Sarah. 3 students from different academies who specialized in protecting magical creatures. Felix smiled warmly. I think we'll get along. The remaining students from Class A were assigned to other mixed teams as well. Every group represented different cultures, different strengths, different personalities. Professor Celestine explained the challenge. The destination is Harmony Valley. A magical map appeared above the stage. The valley contained forests, ancient ruins, rivers, floating cliffs, and hidden objectives. Each team has 6 hours. You must complete rescue tasks, solve puzzles, protect magical creatures, and recover lost relics. Violence will reduce your score. The students exchanged determined looks. Kael stood beside the other teachers. A veteran instructor smiled. Your students seem calm. Kael nodded. They've learned to trust people. The magical gates opened. The teams entered Harmony Valley. Leon's team. Almost immediately, Axel suggested rushing ahead. Freya shook her head. We should search carefully. Lucian smiled. Let's listen to everyone first. Leon remembered Kael's lessons. He smiled. Everyone gets a chance to speak. The others nodded. No one argued after that. Soon, they discovered an injured crystal deer trapped beneath fallen branches. Freya carefully calmed the frightened animal. Leon lifted the heavy logs. Lucian healed its injuries. Axel used gentle fire to warm the exhausted creature. The deer stood, then affectionately rubbed against all 4 students before disappearing into the forest. Their first task completed. Myra's team. The group encountered a giant magical puzzle gate. Ancient runes covered the walls. Eric immediately began calculating. Celine quietly observed the stars carved into the ceiling. Mira noticed tiny symbols hidden inside the larger runes. Elias smiled. We all found different pieces. Working together, the gate opened peacefully. Instead of one genius solving everything, 4 minds solved it together. No's team. Their first mission involved rescuing travelers stranded across a broken bridge. The Southern Guardian student secured the ropes. The Ocean Academy student created water platforms. The alchemist repaired broken supports. Noah calmly treated everyone's injuries. The rescue succeeded without anyone getting hurt. Theo's team. The engineers became so absorbed discussing magical devices that they accidentally solved 3 separate objectives while trying to improve a broken mana generator. Kai later laughed. They forgot they were competing. Arya's team. Arya somehow united students who had never met before. They sang while walking, shared stories, even completed teamwork exercises by cheering one another on. Professor Celestine watched from afar. Some leaders lead through kindness. Felix, Rin, and Sarah. Their mission involved calming frightened magical creatures after a cave collapse. Instead of forcing the animals, Sarah spoke gently to the surrounding plants. Rin comforted the smaller creatures. Felix carefully cleared fallen rocks without causing further damage. Soon, every creature safely returned home. As the afternoon continued, students from different academies naturally began trusting one another. Different techniques blended beautifully. Different philosophies complemented each other. No single academy possessed every answer. That was the lesson. High above Harmony Valley, the teachers observed everything through floating crystal screens. Several instructors quietly watched Kael. One finally spoke. Professor Ashford, how did your students become so cooperative? Kael smiled. They learned that helping someone is never a waste of time. The teachers silently reflected on those words. As the sun slowly began setting, the teams returned to the World Academy. Exhausted, dirty, smiling, Headmaster Orion greeted them warmly. I don't see 12 schools anymore. He looked across the gathered students. I see one community. Thunderous applause filled the Grand Plaza. That evening, Class 7Z reunited at the Astra residence. Everyone eagerly shared stories from their mixed teams. Leon laughed with Axel's name coming up again and again. Mira quietly admitted she enjoyed solving puzzles with Celine and Eric. Noah proudly spoke about helping injured travelers. Theo excitedly showed pages of new engineering notes. Arya had collected friendship bracelets from students across 5 academies. Felix, Rin, and Sarah proudly displayed small gifts from the magical creatures they had rescued. Kael listened quietly. His students had returned stronger. Not because their magic had grown, but because their hearts had become a little wider. Far beneath the World Academy, ancient runes glowed once again. Brighter than before, something deep below had begun responding, not to power, but to the quiet teacher whose presence had returned after many years. Chapter 7. Leon meets his match. The success of the mixed team challenge became the talk of the World Academy. Students no longer introduced themselves by their academies first. Instead, they greeted one another by name. The purpose of the Hidden Schools exchange was slowly becoming reality. Friendships were forming across every school. The next morning, the floating training grounds opened for free practice. Unlike official competitions, students could challenge one another simply to learn. No rankings, no rewards, no winners or losers, only improvement. Kai stretched his arms. So, who's training today? Leon smiled. I already promised someone. Kai immediately knew. Axel. Leon nodded. He asked for another spar. The training arena rested upon a floating island surrounded by waterfalls. Hundreds of students gathered to watch. Not because they expected a fierce rivalry, but because everyone knew the 2 fire users had become friends. Axel stood waiting. When Leon arrived, the 2 exchanged warm smiles. You came. I said I would. They bumped fists. Around them, students whispered excitedly. Who do you think will win? I don't know. They're both amazing. Kael quietly stood beneath a nearby tree, holding his usual cup of tea. Several teachers joined him. Professor Celestine smiled. Your student seems excited. Kael nodded. He finally found someone who understands him. The referee raised a hand. This is a friendly spar. No dangerous techniques. No finishing attacks. Begin. Leon rushed forward first. His crimson flames burst around his fists. Axel answered with brilliant blue fire. The 2 exchanged blows across the arena. Neither tried to overwhelm the other. Instead, each carefully observed the other's movements. Leon smiled. Your fire burns colder. Axel laughed. And yours explodes too much. Leon scratched his head. Teacher says that too. The spectators laughed. Even during battle, the 2 continued talking. A few minutes later, Axel stopped. I noticed something. Leon blinked. What? You rely on your power too much. Leon froze. Those words sounded familiar. Exactly like Kael's lessons. Leon nodded slowly. You're right. Instead of charging again, he took a deep breath. His flames became smaller, calmer, more controlled. Kael smiled quietly. He remembered. This time, Leon didn't attack wildly. He carefully watched Axel's movements. Waited. Stepped aside. Countered only when necessary. The duel became smoother, more graceful. The audience watched silently. Even experienced teachers nodded in approval. Finally, both students stepped backward. Their flames disappeared. They bowed. At the same time, neither had won, neither had lost. Axel smiled. We both improved. Leon grinned. Let's do this again tomorrow. The spectators applauded loudly. Not because someone had become champion, but because they had witnessed genuine growth. After the spar, Kael approached Leon. You listened. Leon smiled. Not just to you. Axel taught me something too. Kael nodded proudly. Then today was worthwhile. Nearby, Axel's teacher approached Kael, a tall man with long auburn hair. Professor Ignis. He bowed respectfully. You've trained him well. Kael smiled politely. He trained himself. Professor Ignis chuckled. Humble as always. The two teachers quietly watched their students talking together. Ignis finally spoke. Many teachers tell students to defeat rivals. Kael answered softly. I prefer they create rivals who become friends. Ignis nodded. Perhaps that's why your students grow so quickly. Elsewhere around the academy, the other members of Class 7Z were also learning. Mira and Celine quietly spent another morning inside the Grand Library. This time, instead of reading separately, they solved an ancient celestial puzzle together. When they finished, a hidden shelf opened. Inside rested a forgotten collection of star maps. Celine smiled faintly. Thank you. Mira returned the smile. Likewise. Theo visited the Research Academy laboratories again. This time, he helped repair a damaged mana engine. The researchers were amazed. You solved it. Theo adjusted his glasses. My teacher told me to look for the simplest answer first. Noah spent the day assisting Divine Academy students in their healing gardens. A little girl from another academy accidentally injured her hand. Before anyone reacted, Noah calmly treated her. The girl smiled brightly. Thank you. Noah smiled back. For the first time, he felt confident without needing reassurance. Sarah and Rowan planted spirit flowers together. The surrounding forest glowed softly. Even the oldest trees seemed pleased. Rin spent the afternoon helping Beast Academy students care for an injured griffin chick. The creature refused medicine from everyone. Except Rin. She gently stroked its feathers. It'll be okay. The chick chirped happily. Arya somehow organized another gathering. This time, students from 8 academies played games together beneath the world tree. Even normally serious students laughed. Professor Celestine watched from afar. She really is extraordinary. That evening, Class 7Z reunited for dinner. Everyone eagerly shared what they had learned. Leon admitted he had become more patient. Mira discovered a love for celestial history. Theo proudly showed another notebook full of inventions. Noah smiled more confidently than before. Rin introduced everyone to the griffin chick. Arya somehow knew twice as many people as yesterday. Kai laughed. How do you keep meeting everyone? Arya shrugged. I say hello. Kael quietly listened. His students weren't simply becoming stronger. They were discovering themselves. Exactly as education should be. As the stars appeared, Kael walked alone through one of the academy's oldest gardens. He stopped beneath an ancient stone statue. The statue depicted a lone guardian watching over countless children. Kael gently brushed dust from its base. Still standing, the statue's eyes briefly glowed. Far beneath the academy, the ancient ruins answered. Another pulse, stronger than before, unseen by anyone else. Something old was slowly awakening. But above ground, Leon and Axel continued laughing together under the evening sky. What had begun as a rivalry had already become a friendship that would last far beyond the exchange. Chapter 8. Mira and the Spirit Princess. The World Academy awakened beneath a blanket of soft morning mist. Floating islands drifted quietly above the clouds. Crystal bells chimed gently in the breeze. Unlike the previous days filled with excitement and competitions, today was peaceful. It was a day dedicated to learning from one another. Inside the Astra residence, the members of Class 7Z gathered around the breakfast table. Kai yawned as he reached for another loaf of bread. How can every morning here have better food than the last? Felix laughed. Maybe because you're always hungry. Arya smiled. Today's schedule looks relaxing. Theo adjusted his glasses. Several academies are hosting cultural workshops. Rin looked excited. I want to visit the Beast Sanctuary again. Sarah nodded. The Spirit Garden too. Mira quietly continued reading her book. Kael noticed. He smiled gently. Would you like to visit the Celestial Gardens today? Mira looked up. Why? I have a feeling you'll meet someone interesting. She quietly closed her book. All right. Later that morning, the Celestial Gardens welcomed visitors from every academy. Unlike the colorful spirit forest, this garden was calm. White flowers bloomed beneath ancient silver trees. Small streams reflected the sky like mirrors. Everything felt peaceful. Mira walked slowly along the stone path. She enjoyed the silence. It reminded her of Astra Academy's memorial garden. Near the center of the garden, she noticed someone sitting alone beneath a flowering tree. A young girl wearing elegant white robes embroidered with silver stars. Long silver hair, gentle violet eyes. A small crown woven from glowing flowers rested upon her head. Several tiny spirits floated quietly around her. She looked lonely. The girl noticed Mira approaching. "Good morning." Mira bowed politely. "Good morning." Silence followed. Neither found it uncomfortable. Instead, it felt peaceful. Finally, the girl smiled faintly. "My name is Alara. I'm from the Spirit Academy." Several nearby students whispered, "The Spirit Princess." Mira blinked. "Princess." Alara sighed softly. "People keep calling me that. I wish they'd simply call me Alara." Mira nodded. "Then I will." For the first time that morning, Alara genuinely smiled. The two quietly walked through the garden together. Alara explained that her family protected one of the oldest sacred forests in the hidden world. Because of that, many students treated her like royalty. Few spoke to her normally. Mira listened quietly. "You don't like special treatment?" Alara nodded. "I just want friends." Mira looked toward the floating spirits dancing around them. "I understand." The spirits happily circled the two girls. One tiny glowing spirit landed on Mira's shoulder. Another rested in Alara's hands. The atmosphere felt warm, peaceful. Elsewhere, the rest of Class 7Z enjoyed their own activities. Leon and Axel practiced sword forms instead of fire magic today. Theo attended another magical engineering lecture. Kai somehow joined a cooking workshop. Felix helped bake fresh bread for lunch. Rin spent time with the griffin chick she had befriended. Sarah returned to the Spirit Garden greenhouse. Noah volunteered at the healing pavilion. Arya continued making friends across the academy. Meanwhile, Mira and Alara reached a quiet pond. The water reflected the sky perfectly. Alara stopped. "Would you like to hear a secret?" Mira nodded. "I've never had someone my own age simply sit with me." Mira thought for a moment. "Neither have I." Both girls looked at each other. Then quietly laughed. Suddenly, a small fox spirit became trapped beneath tangled glowing vines near the pond. It whimpered softly. Without hesitation, Mira knelt beside it. Alara gently spoke to the surrounding plants. The vines slowly loosened. Mira carefully lifted the frightened fox. "It's all right." The tiny creature rubbed against her hand. Then happily jumped into Alara's arms. The nearby spirits began glowing brighter. The pond shimmered with silver light. An elderly caretaker approached. He smiled warmly. "The sacred pond responds only to sincere hearts." He bowed respectfully. "You have both been acknowledged." The pond released two glowing flowers. One floated toward Mira, the other toward Alara. Each flower transformed into a delicate silver pendant shaped like a blooming blossom. "A gift from the spirits." Alara smiled brightly. "I've never received one before." Mira carefully accepted hers. "Thank you." That afternoon, the two girls joined the others beneath the world tree for lunch. Arya immediately waved. "Mira, you made a new friend." Mira nodded. "Yes." Kai grinned. "That's a historical event." Mira quietly looked at him. Kai raised both hands. "I'm joking." Everyone laughed. Even Mira smiled a little. Kael watched from nearby. Professor Celestine approached. "It seems your student has opened her heart." Kael nodded. "Sometimes, people don't need advice. They simply need someone who understands them." Celestine smiled. "You truly are a remarkable teacher." Kael looked confused. "I only introduced her to a garden." As evening arrived, the students returned to the Astra residence. Mira quietly placed the silver spirit pendant beside her favorite book. Leon noticed. "A souvenir." Mira gently shook her head. "A reminder." "Of what?" "That I made a friend." Leon smiled warmly. "That's even better." Far away, inside one of the oldest towers of the World Academy, Headmaster Orion stood before an ancient crystal window. Behind him, the mysterious cloaked figure watched silently. "The children are growing." Orion nodded. "As they should." The cloaked figure looked toward the distant Astra residence. "And Kael Ashford." Orion smiled faintly. "He remains exactly as he always was. A teacher." Deep beneath the academy, the ancient ruins pulsed once more. The glowing runes spread farther through the darkness. Patiently waiting for the day the silent guardian would finally descend below. Chapter 9. No's First Patient. The World Academy was unusually quiet that morning. A gentle rain fell over the floating islands, leaving tiny droplets on flowers and crystal pathways. Many outdoor activities had been postponed. Instead, students gathered inside workshops, libraries, and training halls. For Noah, It was the perfect day to return to the Divine Academy Healing Pavilion. Inside the Astra residence, Noah carefully checked the contents of his small healer's bag. Healing herbs, bandages, mana crystals. Everything was neatly arranged. Felix smiled. You've checked it 3 times already. Noah scratched his cheek. I don't want to forget anything. Kael, who was pouring tea nearby, looked at him. A healer prepares because they care. But, he smiled gently. Don't forget to trust yourself, too. Noah nodded. I'll remember. The healing pavilion was one of the calmest places in the World Academy. Its white stone halls were filled with the scent of medicinal herbs. Soft music played in the background. Patients rested peacefully while students practiced healing under the guidance of experienced instructors. Lucian greeted Noah with a warm smile. You came. I promised. I'm glad. Professor Seraphine, the head healer of the Divine Academy, welcomed the visiting students. Today's lesson isn't about powerful healing spells. She looked around the room. It's about compassion. Healing begins with listening. The students nodded respectfully. Throughout the morning, Noah observed experienced healers speaking gently to patients before using magic. Some patients were frightened. Some were embarrassed. Some simply needed someone to reassure them. Noah quietly watched every interaction. Later, Professor Seraphine approached Noah. Would you like to assist? His heart skipped a beat. Me, she nodded. I've been watching you. You have kind hands. Noah swallowed nervously. I'll try. Just then, the doors opened. A young boy from the Ocean Academy hurried inside carrying his younger sister. She couldn't have been older than 10. Her ankle was badly injured after slipping from a floating staircase. The little girl tried not to cry. I'm sorry. I caused trouble. Noah's heart tightened. He remembered Kael's words. Healing begins with listening. He knelt beside her. Does it hurt a lot? The little girl nodded. A little. She was trying to be brave. Noah smiled gently. You've already been very brave. You don't have to pretend anymore. The little girl's eyes filled with tears. She finally cried. Her older brother sighed with relief. Thank you. Noah carefully examined the injury. It isn't broken. Just a severe sprain. Professor Seraphine watched silently. Noah cleaned the wound first. Applied a cool herbal compress. Then, he gently placed his hands over her ankle. A soft emerald light spread through the room. Unlike bright, dramatic healing magic, his mana flowed calmly, comfortably. The swelling slowly disappeared. The girl's pain eased. She blinked in surprise. It doesn't hurt anymore. Noah smiled. Try standing. She carefully did. One step, then another. Soon, she was walking normally again. The little girl happily hugged her brother. Then, to Noah's surprise, she hugged him too. Thank you, Mr. Healer. Noah froze. His cheeks turned bright red. Why, you're welcome. The room filled with warm laughter. Professor Seraphine approached. Excellent work. Noah lowered his head. I still have a lot to learn. She smiled. That's exactly why you'll continue growing. Word spread quickly throughout the healing pavilion. The visiting student from Astra Academy was remarkably gentle. Several patients specifically requested Noah's assistance during the afternoon. He treated tired travelers. A student suffering from mana exhaustion. A gardener scratched by thorn vines. An elderly librarian with aching hands. Each time, he listened first, then healed. Outside, Kael quietly watched through an open window. Lucian stepped beside him. He reminds me of you. Kael blinked. Really? He heals people before they ask. Kael looked toward Noah, who was patiently comforting another frightened child. That's because he's kinder than I am. Lucian smiled. I don't believe that. That afternoon, the rain finally stopped. Sunlight shone through the crystal roof of the pavilion. A rainbow stretched across the floating islands. The little girl Noah had treated earlier ran outside laughing. She waved enthusiastically. Goodbye, Mr. Healer. Noah waved back with a bright smile. It was the happiest anyone had seen him. That evening, Class 7Z gathered for dinner. Everyone shared stories from the day. Kai had accidentally burned lunch during another cooking lesson. Leon and Axel had spent the afternoon practicing without using fire magic. Theo proudly explained a new mana circuit he had designed. Arya somehow knew the names of nearly every exchange student. When it was Noah's turn, he hesitated, then quietly smiled. Someone called me Mr. Healer. The table became silent. Then everyone smiled. Felix patted his shoulder. You've earned it. Kael nodded proudly. You certainly have. Later that night, Noah stepped onto the balcony alone. He looked toward the countless lights of the World Academy. His hands, the same hands that once trembled with uncertainty, now carried confidence, not because they had become stronger, but because they had brought comfort to someone in need. Far below the academy, the ancient ruins pulsed again. This time, a forgotten healing shrine hidden deep underground briefly glowed with emerald light. Ancient runes awakened one after another, as if acknowledging the kindness that continued spreading through Kael's students. The darkness remained silent, waiting, watching, and growing closer to awakening. Chapter 10, The Cooking Competition. The World Academy buzzed with excitement from the moment the morning bells rang. Unlike the previous events that focused on magic, teamwork, and exploration, today's festival had a very different theme. Food. The aroma of freshly baked bread, roasted vegetables, fragrant herbs, and sweet desserts drifted across the floating islands. Students followed the delicious scents until they reached the grand culinary plaza. Colorful banners fluttered overhead. Large kitchens had been prepared beneath elegant crystal canopies. Every academy would present dishes unique to its culture. Kai's eyes sparkled the instant they arrived. This is the greatest day of my life. Leon laughed. You said that during breakfast. This is even better. Felix smiled. I think you'll eat more than you'll watch. I intend to. Everyone burst into laughter. Professor Celestine welcomed the gathered students. Today's event is the Harmony Cooking Festival. She smiled warmly. This isn't about becoming the best chef. It's about sharing culture, sharing memories, and sharing meals. The students applauded. The event was divided into two parts. The first, student cooking demonstrations. The second, a friendly exhibition between teachers. Kai immediately turned toward Kael. Teacher. Kael calmly sipped his tea. No, you haven't even heard the question. I already know. The class laughed. Student Cooking Festival. Teams from all 12 academies prepared their specialties. The Southern Guardian Academy baked enormous country loaves. Ocean Academy students prepared seafood dishes filled with magical herbs. Spirit Academy created colorful fruit desserts infused with nature magic. Eastern Hidden Academy demonstrated delicate handmade dumplings. Magic Research Academy accidentally created glowing soup. Theo adjusted his glasses. Technically, it still counts as soup. Kai quietly stepped away from the table. Felix volunteered to represent Astra Academy, with Noah helping prepare ingredients, and Arya serving samples. They baked soft countryside bread inspired by Astra's memorial garden. Picnics. The warm aroma filled the plaza. Students from every academy gathered around. It's delicious. So soft. What recipe is this? Felix smiled shyly. My teacher taught me. Kael blinked. I only showed you once. Felix smiled. I remembered. Kael looked slightly embarrassed. By lunchtime, the student festival ended successfully. No rankings were announced. Instead, every academy received a crystal plaque celebrating friendship through food. Then, Professor Celestine smiled mischievously. And now, the teachers' exhibition. The students erupted with excitement. One by one, teachers stepped forward. Professor Ignis from the Spirit Academy grilled spicy flame skewers using perfect fire control. Professor Seraphine prepared delicate herbal soup. An Ocean Academy teacher served beautiful seafood platters. The Rune Academy instructor baked bread using enchanted ovens. Each dish looked incredible. Then, Professor Celestine called the final participant. Professor Kael Ashford. Class 7Z immediately cheered. Kai shouted, Teacher, you can do it. Kael sighed softly. I knew this would happen. He quietly walked to his cooking station. No dramatic introduction. No flashy magic. Just simple ingredients. Fresh vegetables. Homemade butter. Country herbs. Flour, milk, honey, eggs. Nothing extraordinary. The audience whispered. That's all. No rare ingredients. He isn't even using magic. Kael smiled faintly. Good food doesn't need to be complicated. He began cooking. Every movement was calm, precise, gentle. He kneaded dough as if caring for a flower. He chopped vegetables without wasting a single piece. He stirred soup slowly. The entire plaza gradually became quiet. Students unconsciously watched every movement. There was something comforting about the way he cooked. A tiny sparrow landed beside him. Kael smiled. Hungry. He broke off a tiny piece of bread. The bird chirped happily. The audience laughed warmly. Within an hour, Kael finished. His meal looked unbelievably simple. Fresh countryside bread, creamy vegetable soup, herb-roasted vegetables, honey butter, warm apple pie. Nothing luxurious, nothing magical. The judges exchanged curious looks. Then tasted the meal. Silence. Complete silence. One elderly judge slowly closed his eyes. Another quietly wiped away tears. Professor Ignis blinked. It's just like home. Professor Seraphine smiled softly. It reminds me of my grandmother. Headmaster Orion laughed gently. Food that comforts the heart. Soon, every teacher asked for another serving. Students lined up hoping to taste it. Kai nearly cried after one bite. Teacher, can we eat this every day? Kael smiled. If you help wash the dishes, I'll wash everyone's. The entire plaza erupted into laughter. When the exhibition concluded, Professor Celestine raised a crystal trophy. We don't declare winners, but, she looked toward Kael. This year's Heart of the Festival award goes to Professor Kael Ashford. Thunderous applause echoed across the floating islands. Kael looked genuinely surprised. For cooking, Headmaster Orion smiled. For reminding us that the simplest kindness is often the most unforgettable. That evening, students from every academy gathered around long outdoor tables beneath the World Tree. There were no separate schools anymore. Everyone shared dishes, exchanged recipes, told stories about home. Leon and Axel argued playfully over whose grilled vegetables were better. Arya collected recipes from 6 academies. Theo discussed magical ovens with researchers. Felix happily taught younger students how to knead bread. Noah quietly poured soup for anyone who wanted another bowl. Kael simply watched. His students were smiling. That alone made the day worthwhile. As night fell, the lanterns around the World Tree glowed softly. Far away, hidden beneath the academy, the ancient ruins pulsed once more. For the first time, a forgotten stone doorway slowly opened by a single inch. Dust drifted into the darkness. Something ancient had taken its first step toward awakening. But above ground, the aroma of fresh bread still lingered in the cool night air. And for one peaceful evening, the world felt wonderfully ordinary. Chapter 11, Teachers Gathering. The morning after the Harmony Cooking Festival was quieter than usual. The delicious aroma of fresh bread still lingered around the World Tree, and students spent breakfast laughing about the previous day's cooking mishaps. Kai proudly announced, I ate food from every academy. Theo adjusted his glasses. Actually, you missed the Ocean Academy's seaweed pastries. Kai froze. Impossible. Arya giggled. You can try them later. Everyone laughed. While the students enjoyed another day of workshops and free activities, the teachers received a special invitation. Professor Celestine gathered them near the Hall of Wisdom. Today, the students will learn from one another. And the teachers will do the same. Kael quietly finished his tea. Can I stay with the flowers instead? Celestine smiled. I'm afraid not. The Hall of Wisdom was one of the oldest buildings in the World Academy. Its circular chamber was surrounded by towering bookshelves and glowing crystal windows. 12 large tables had been arranged in a circle, one for each academy. Teachers from across the hidden world greeted one another warmly. Old friends reunited. Former classmates laughed together. Ideas were exchanged before the meeting even began. Kael quietly sat at Astra Academy's table. He hoped no one would notice him. Unfortunately, that never happened. Professor Ignis walked over first. Professor Ashford. Good morning. Kael nodded politely. Good morning. Professor Seraphine soon joined them. Then the Rune Academy's Professor Hilda. The Beast Academy's Professor Magnus. Within minutes, a small crowd had gathered around Kael. Kai would have called it a teacher trap. Headmaster Orion entered the hall. The conversations gradually quieted. Welcome, everyone. Our students aren't the only ones here to grow. Today, I ask each academy to share its teaching philosophy. The discussions began. The Sword Academy emphasized discipline. Strength comes through repetition. The Spirit Academy valued harmony with nature. Magic listens to gentle hearts. The Magic Research Academy encouraged curiosity. Questions create progress. The Divine Academy believed compassion came before power. A healer who cannot comfort cannot truly heal. Each philosophy reflected its academy's history. Finally, It was Astra Academy's turn. Headmaster Orion smiled toward Kael. Professor Ashford, would you like to speak? Every teacher turned to him. Kael sighed quietly. I suppose. He stood. The room became completely silent. Kael looked around the hall. Then simply said, I teach children. The teachers blinked. That's all. Kael nodded. They're students before they're warriors. People before their talents. If they become kind, they'll find their own strength. Silence filled the chamber. Not awkward silence. Thoughtful silence. Professor Magnus slowly smiled. Simple. Professor Seraphine nodded. But true. Professor Ignis laughed. I spent 20 years making teaching complicated. Several teachers chuckled. Even Headmaster Orion smiled proudly. The meeting continued throughout the morning. Teachers shared classroom experiences, funny stories, successful lessons, failures. Everyone discovered that regardless of academy, teaching was never easy. During a short break, several younger instructors approached Kael. Professor, how do you make students trust you? Kael thought for a moment. I trust them first. Another teacher asked, what if they make mistakes? Kael smiled. They will. So will I. The younger teachers quietly wrote down his words. Meanwhile, outside the Hall of Wisdom, Class 7Z enjoyed a peaceful afternoon. Leon and Axel watched younger students practice. Instead of sparring, they offered advice. Mira and Celine cataloged ancient books in the library. Theo assisted researchers repairing magical telescopes. Noah continued volunteering at the healing pavilion. Rin visited the Griffin Sanctuary. Sarah planted more spirit flowers. Arya organized another picnic beneath the world tree. Kai managed to find the missing seaweed pastries. They were worth the search. Back inside, the teachers' gathering concluded with a friendly exchange of gifts. Each academy offered something symbolic. Spirit Academy gifted enchanted seeds. Rune Academy presented carved runestones. Ocean Academy shared glowing pearls. Divine Academy offered healing herbs. When it came time for Astra Academy, Kael quietly placed a small cloth pouch on the table. Inside, simple flower seeds from Astra's memorial garden. Professor Hilda looked surprised. Flower seeds. Kael nodded. They bloom best when planted together. The teachers smiled. It was a simple gift, but everyone understood its meaning. As the meeting ended, Headmaster Orion walked beside Kael through the quiet hallway. You still teach exactly the same way. Kael smiled faintly. I don't know another way. Orion chuckled. That's why they still remember you. Kael's expression became thoughtful. I don't need to be remembered. I only want my students to remember one another. That evening, the students reunited for dinner. They eagerly shared everything they had learned. Kai proudly brought back seaweed pastries for everyone. Felix baked fresh bread using a recipe from the Southern Guardian Academy. Theo showed sketches of improved Mana telescopes. Noah received another thank you letter from a young patient. Leon admitted he had enjoyed teaching younger students. Arya had somehow doubled her list of friends. Kael quietly listened. His students were slowly becoming the kind of people who would teach others someday. That thought made him smile. Late that night, far beneath the World Academy, the ancient stone doorway creaked open a little farther. Glowing runes spread across the forgotten halls. Dust drifted through the darkness. A deep, ancient voice echoed for the first time in centuries. Guardian. Then, silence returned. Above ground, no one heard it. The peaceful exchange continued, unaware that something beneath their feet had finally spoken. Chapter 12. The 12 Teachers. The Hidden Schools exchange had entered its second week. By now, students from the 12 academies no longer felt like strangers. The cafeterias were filled with mixed groups. The libraries were quieter, not because fewer students visited, but because many now studied together. Training grounds echoed with laughter instead of rivalry. Headmaster Orion watched the academy from the highest balcony. A gentle smile crossed his face. This is exactly what we hoped for. That morning, a special announcement echoed throughout the World Academy. Attention to all exchange students and faculty. Today's program is the 12 Teachers Forum. Curious murmurs spread across the campus. Kai tilted his head. Another teacher meeting. Professor Celestine smiled. Not exactly. This time, the students may attend. The event was held inside the magnificent Hall of Harmony. Instead of desks, 12 comfortable chairs formed a large circle. Each chair represented one academy. Students filled the surrounding seats, eager to hear the greatest teachers of the hidden world speak. One by one, the representatives took their places. Professor Roland from the Sword Academy. Professor Ignis from the Spirit Academy. Professor Seraphine from the Divine Academy. Professor Magnus from the Beast Academy. Professor Hilda from the Rune Academy. The other academy representatives followed. Finally, Kael quietly walked to Astra Academy's chair. He looked as though he wished he were anywhere else. Kai whispered, "Our teacher looks like he's about to run away." Leon chuckled. "He probably is." Headmaster Orion stood in the center. Today's discussion has only one question. He looked around the hall. What makes a great teacher? Silence followed. Then, Professor Roland spoke first. A great teacher creates disciplined students. Professor Magnus nodded. A great teacher prepares students to survive. Professor Seraphine smiled. A great teacher eases suffering. Professor Ignis added. A great teacher inspires courage. Each answer earned respectful applause. Then, Headmaster Orion looked toward Kael. And Professor Ashford. Kael blinked. Me. The headmaster smiled. Yes. The entire hall turned toward him. Kael remained silent for a moment. Then quietly answered. A great teacher helps students no longer need the teacher. The room fell completely silent. He continued. If they can solve problems without me. If they can help someone before I arrive. If they become kind people. My job is finished. No dramatic speech. Just simple words. Yet, every student listened carefully. Noah lowered his head thoughtfully. Leon smiled. Felix nodded. Arya quietly looked at her classmates. Even Theo stopped writing notes. Professor Ignis laughed softly. You always make difficult ideas sound simple. Kael shrugged. They usually are. The forum continued. Students were allowed to ask questions. A Sword Academy student stood. What do you do when students fail? Professor Roland answered. They train again. Another student asked Professor Seraphine. What if healing doesn't work? We stay beside them anyway. Then, a shy first-year student from the Beast Academy slowly raised her hand. She looked toward Kael. What if a student believes they're worthless? The hall became quiet. Kael looked at the girl gently. Then, I keep believing in them. Until they can believe in themselves. Several students lowered their heads. Some smiled. Others quietly wiped away tears. After the forum, the students gathered outside beneath the world tree. No one talked about powerful magic. Instead, they discussed the teacher's words. Leon looked at Axel. I think I understand Teacher Kael a little better now. Axel smiled. I wish he taught at my academy too. Meanwhile, the 12 teachers enjoyed tea together. Without formal speeches. Without meetings. Just conversation. Professor Magnus laughed loudly while sharing stories about mischievous griffins. Professor Seraphine exchanged herbal recipes with Professor Celestine. Professor Ignis challenged everyone to a cooking rematch. Kael quietly watered a nearby flower bed. Ignis laughed. We're having tea. Kael smiled. The flowers looked thirsty. Nobody was surprised anymore. That afternoon, the teachers visited one another's temporary classrooms. Instead of evaluating, they observed. They learned. Kael watched Professor Roland teach discipline with patience instead of fear. Professor Roland watched Kael guide students simply by asking gentle questions. Each teacher discovered something worth bringing home. Later, Class 7Z reunited in one of the academy gardens. Kai stretched. I thought teacher meetings would be boring. Leon nodded. They weren't. Theo adjusted his glasses. I've filled 2 notebooks. Arya smiled warmly. I think we're lucky. Everyone looked at her. We have an amazing teacher. The others quietly nodded. Kael, who had just arrived carrying fresh tea, pretended not to hear. That evening, Headmaster Orion stood alone in the ancient observatory. Beside him, the mysterious cloaked figure appeared once more. The children admire him. Orion nodded. They admire the teacher, not the legend. The cloaked figure looked toward the distant Astra residence. Perhaps that's why the ruins continue responding. Far beneath the academy, the ancient doorway opened wider. A warm silver light flowed through forgotten halls. Ancient murals slowly illuminated. Each mural showed the same figure. A quiet young teacher, standing before countless smiling children. The title carved beneath the final mural had nearly faded with time. Only 2 words remained clearly visible. Silent Guardian. The ancient ruins had not mistaken Kael. They had been waiting for him. Chapter 13, The Hidden Archive. The Hidden Schools Exchange entered its final few days. Students had grown accustomed to life at the World Academy. The once unfamiliar floating islands now felt almost like home. Everywhere they walked, someone greeted them by name. That morning, Headmaster Orion made a special announcement. Today's activities are optional. You may explore the academy under the guidance of your teachers. The students cheered. Kai immediately grinned. So, adventure. Leon laughed. Definitely adventure. Professor Celestine approached Class 7Z. There is one place that visitors are rarely allowed to enter. The Hidden Archive. Theo's eyes widened. The legendary archive. She smiled. Today, you've earned the privilege. The Hidden Archive rested beneath one of the oldest towers in the academy. Unlike the Grand Library, this place held no ordinary books. Ancient scrolls floated inside crystal cases. Forgotten maps covered the walls. Weapons from long-forgotten eras rested quietly upon stone pedestals. Even the air felt older. As the group entered, everyone instinctively lowered their voices. Arya whispered, "It's beautiful." Theo looked ready to faint from excitement. There are books here older than entire kingdoms. Kai gently grabbed Theo's sleeve. Don't hug the shelves. I wasn't going to. You were thinking about it. Maybe. An elderly archivist welcomed them. My name is Archivist Cedric. I protect the history of the hidden world. He smiled warmly. Please treat every artifact with respect. The students nodded together. The tour began. They passed displays containing ancient uniforms from the first hidden schools. Old academy banners. Legendary staffs. Crystal compasses used to discover floating islands. Each artifact carried its own story. Cedric patiently explained each one. Noah paused before an old healer's satchel. It looks well used. Cedric nodded. It belonged to a healer who refused to leave wounded civilians during the Great Rift. He saved thousands. Noah quietly bowed his head. I hope I can become someone like that. Leon stopped before a worn wooden practice sword. This, Cedric smiled. That sword belonged to a student. Not a hero. Not a king. Just a boy who practiced every day. Leon smiled. I like that. Sarah admired a collection of preserved spirit flowers. Rin happily greeted a tiny archive guardian owl. Felix studied an old bread recipe carved into stone. Kai somehow found an ancient cookbook. Theo had already disappeared among the shelves. Mira quietly wandered farther into the archive. There, she discovered a corridor almost completely forgotten. Dust covered the floor. Very few footprints remained. At the end stood a single glass case. Inside, rested an old photograph. It showed a group of smiling teachers standing together. One face immediately caught her attention. Teacher. The young man in the photograph looked exactly like Kael. Same black hair. Same gentle eyes. Same quiet smile. He looked no older than he did today. Mira quickly called the others. Soon, the entire class stood before the photograph. Kai blinked repeatedly. No. Leon stared. That's teacher. Arya tilted her head. But, the picture looks ancient. Archivist Cedric slowly approached. His expression softened. I wondered when someone would find that. Everyone turned toward him. Who is he? Cedric looked at the photograph. His name is Professor Kael Ashford. Theo frowned. That's our teacher. Cedric smiled faintly. Yes, it is. The students exchanged confused looks. Kai pointed at the photograph. Then, how old is this picture? Cedric answered quietly. Approximately 120 years. Silence. Complete silence. Kai laughed nervously. Good joke. Cedric didn't laugh. It's genuine. Arya slowly looked toward Kael. Teacher. Kael calmly examined the photograph. I remember that day. The students froze. Leon finally managed to speak. You remember? Kael nodded. We had just planted the first memorial garden. Felix blinked. 120 years ago. Kael quietly smiled. Time passes quickly. Nobody knew what to say. Their quiet countryside teacher, who always worried about flowers and tea, had casually admitted remembering something from over a century ago. Before anyone could ask another question, Headmaster Orion entered the archive. He looked toward the photograph. So, they've discovered it. Kael sighed softly. I was hoping they wouldn't. Orion chuckled. I suspected as much. The students immediately surrounded the two. Kai spoke first. Teacher, who are you? Kael looked at the 12 students. Then smiled gently. I'm your homeroom teacher. But, Leon protested. The photograph. Kael interrupted softly. Some questions deserve answers at the right time. The students reluctantly nodded. They trusted him, even if they didn't understand. Before leaving, Cedric handed each student a small silver bookmark shaped like the world tree. A gift from the hidden archive. So you'll remember today. They accepted them gratefully. That evening, the class gathered on the balcony of the Astra residence. Nobody talked much. Instead, they quietly looked at the silver bookmarks in their hands. Finally, Arya smiled. I don't really care how old teacher is. Leon nodded. He's still our teacher. Noah smiled softly. And he still makes tea every morning. Everyone laughed. Even Kai. Yeah, he's just teacher. Kael quietly listened from inside the room. A small smile appeared on his face. Outside, the stars shone brightly over the floating islands. Far beneath the academy, the hidden archive's deepest chamber slowly awakened. Ancient murals glowed with silver light. A sealed door trembled. The ancient voice echoed once more. Guardian. This time, Kael heard it. He quietly looked toward the ground beneath his feet. His peaceful days at the World Academy were nearing their end. Chapter 14. Beneath the World Academy. The discovery inside the hidden archive stayed in everyone's mind. Although Class 7Z continued laughing and enjoying their days together, every now and then, someone would glance at Kael. The same question always returned. Who was he? Yet, no one asked again, because they trusted him. When the time was right, he would tell them. That evening, after the students had gone to sleep, Kael quietly stood on the balcony of the Astra residence. The stars reflected across the endless sea of clouds. A cool breeze rustled the flowers growing in the nearby gardens. Then, he heard it again. Guardian. The voice was distant, ancient, gentle, not threatening. It was calling him. Kael quietly sighed. I suppose I can't ignore you forever. Without waking anyone, he slipped out of the residence. Unknown to him, one person happened to be awake. Noah had gone to the kitchen for a cup of warm tea. From the hallway window, he noticed Kael walking alone. Teacher. Curious, he quietly followed from a distance. Kael crossed the silent campus. The World Academy looked completely different at night. Floating lanterns illuminated the stone paths. Spirit butterflies drifted peacefully through the gardens. Even the dragons resting on distant cliffs seemed asleep. The academy itself felt alive. Eventually, Kael stopped before the ancient stone archway he had visited on the first day. The weathered runes glowed faintly. He gently placed one hand upon the stone. I've returned. The runes immediately burst into silver light. The archway slowly opened. A hidden staircase descended into darkness. Noah gasped quietly from behind a nearby pillar. A secret passage. He hesitated. Then, remembering Kael's lessons about trust, he chose not to follow. Instead, he quietly returned to the residence. If teacher went alone, he probably has a reason. Far below, Kael descended the endless staircase. Ancient murals lined the walls. They depicted teachers guiding children, students helping one another, wars ending through understanding rather than conquest. The deeper he walked, the older everything became. Finally, he reached a vast underground chamber. An enormous crystal floated in the center. Silver light filled the cavern. Ancient pillars surrounded the crystal. Each pillar carried countless names. Teachers, students, guardians, all remembered. Standing before the crystal was Headmaster Orion. He smiled. I knew you'd come. Kael nodded. The ruins were becoming louder. Orion sighed. They've waited long enough. For a few moments, neither spoke. They simply looked at the crystal. Finally, Kael broke the silence. Is it beginning? Orion nodded. Yes. The seal is weakening. Kael gently closed his eyes. I was hoping it would sleep a little longer. The crystal pulsed once. A warm voice echoed through the chamber. Not frightening, not hostile, merely ancient. Welcome home. Kael looked toward the crystal. It's been a long time. The crystal brightened. Ancient images appeared inside its light. The first hidden school. The founders. Teachers standing side by side. Children learning together despite their different races. Then, one image remained longer than the others. A much younger Kael, standing beside the founders, smiling exactly as he did now. Orion quietly spoke. You've avoided this place for over a century. Kael smiled faintly. I preferred gardening. You always preferred gardening. The crystal continued glowing. Its gentle voice echoed once more. The next generation is ready. Kael remained silent. Meanwhile, back at the Astra residence, Noah couldn't sleep. Something about tonight felt different. He quietly stepped onto the balcony. To his surprise, Leon was already there. You couldn't sleep either. Noah nodded. I saw teacher leave. Leon looked surprised. He went somewhere. Noah hesitated. I think he's carrying something much heavier than he lets us see. Leon quietly looked toward the distant academy. Then maybe, one day we can help carry it. Deep beneath the academy, Kael placed one hand against the crystal. I've found good students. They're kind. They're stubborn. They argue. They make mistakes. They laugh. And they've become my family. The crystal shimmered brightly. Its voice became softer. Then, continue teaching. Silver light filled the chamber. For just a moment, every flower growing throughout the World Academy bloomed at once. Students sleeping peacefully smiled without knowing why. Spirit creatures quietly gathered beneath the moonlight. Even the dragons lifted their heads toward the stars. When the light finally faded, the chamber returned to silence. Orion looked at Kael. You still won't tell them. Kael smiled gently. They deserve ordinary school days, not old legends. Orion laughed quietly. You're impossible. Near dawn, Kael returned to the Astra residence. No one saw him, or so he believed. Noah, watching quietly from the balcony, simply smiled. He asked no questions. He trusted his teacher. And somehow, that trust made Kael smile in return. Far beneath the academy, the ancient crystal settled back into peaceful slumber. For now, but its final words lingered in the silence. The silent guardian has returned. The exchange was almost over. Yet the greatest secret of the World Academy had only just begun to awaken. Chapter 15, Until We Meet Again. The final morning of the Hidden Schools exchange arrived. The floating islands of the World Academy shimmered beneath the golden sunrise. The once unfamiliar campus had become a second home. Students who had arrived as strangers now greeted one another like lifelong friends. Yet, there was a quiet sadness in the air. Everyone knew today was the day they would return to their own schools. Inside the Astra residence, Class 7Z packed their belongings. The room that had once been noisy with excitement was strangely quiet. Kai folded his clothes with an unusually serious expression. I don't want to leave. Leon smiled. I know. Theo carefully wrapped the books and blueprints he had received from the Research Academy. I still have so much to study. Mira placed the silver bookmark from the hidden archive inside her favorite book. I'll treasure this. Noah carefully packed the thank you letters from the children he had treated. Felix carried fresh bread he had baked for the journey home. Rin gently hugged the now healthy griffin chick one last time before returning it to the sanctuary. Sarah collected the seeds gifted by the Spirit Academy. Arya smiled as she looked through dozens of friendship bracelets from students across the 12 academies. Each one held a memory. Kael quietly watched his students. They've grown. He smiled softly. More than they realize. At the Grand Plaza, students from all 12 academies gathered for the closing ceremony. The plaza was filled with laughter, tears, promises, and countless photographs. No one wanted the exchange to end. Headmaster Orion stepped onto the stage. My dear students, when you first arrived, you represented 12 different schools. He looked across the crowd. But today, I see one family. Thunderous applause echoed through the plaza. One by one, representatives from each academy stepped forward. Instead of accepting awards, they exchanged gifts. The Sword Academy presented handcrafted wooden practice swords as symbols of perseverance. The Spirit Academy gifted enchanted flower seeds. The Divine Academy shared healing herb pouches. The Beast Academy offered feathers naturally shed by their guardian griffins. The Rune Academy gave protective rune charms. Every academy offered something meaningful. When it was Astra Academy's turn, Kael quietly stepped forward. He placed a simple wooden box on the table. Inside, there were 12 small packets of flower seeds. Each packet carried a handwritten note. Wherever kindness is planted, friendship will bloom. The plaza became silent. Students smiled warmly. Many carefully accepted their packets as treasured keepsakes. Then, Professor Celestine smiled. We have one final tradition. She raised her hand. The crystal above the plaza glowed brightly. Instantly, every friendship bracelet, charm, bookmark, rune, and keepsake exchanged during the festival shimmered with gentle light. They are now connected. No matter where you are, they will glow whenever old friends gather again. The students gasped in amazement. Leon looked toward Axel. So, this isn't goodbye. Axel grinned. Of course not. It's just, see you later. The two bumped fists one last time. Mira quietly hugged Alara. Thank you. Alara smiled. I'm glad I met you. I'll visit Astra Academy someday. I'll be waiting. Noah shook hands with Lucian. Let's heal people together again. Lucian nodded. Next time, we'll teach each other. Theo exchanged notebooks with the Research Academy students. Kai promised to visit the Southern Guardian Academy's bakery. Felix traded recipes. Sarah and Rowan planted one final spirit flower together. Rin received a feather from the griffin she had cared for. Arya somehow managed to hug nearly everyone. Even several teachers laughed. Finally, the students gathered before Kael. Leon smiled. Teacher, thank you. One by one, the others bowed. Not because they had to. Because they wanted to. Kael looked at the 12 students. Then quietly bowed in return. Thank you. For growing. The teleportation gates slowly activated. Floating circles of silver light appeared before each academy. Students began saying their final farewells. Tears mixed with laughter. Promises filled the air. We'll meet again. Don't forget to write. Visit us. Train together next year. As Astra Academy's group stepped through their gate, Kael paused for a moment. He looked back toward the World Academy. Headmaster Orion stood quietly at the top of the grand staircase. Their eyes met. Orion smiled knowingly. Kael nodded once. No words were needed. Just before the gate closed, a faint silver light rose from beneath the academy. Only Kael noticed it. The ancient voice echoed one last time. Until next time, Guardian. Kael smiled gently. Until next time. Then, he stepped through the portal. The World Academy became quiet once more. The exchange had ended, but its impact would remain for years to come. Across 12 hidden schools, students carried new friendships, new dreams, and new confidence. Back at Astra Academy, the familiar countryside welcomed them home. The flowers in the memorial garden had begun blooming. Birds sang in the morning breeze. Everything looked exactly as they had left it. Yet, everyone had changed. Leon had become more patient. Mira had opened her heart. Noah had found confidence. Theo had discovered new dreams. Kai had matured, at least a little. Felix smiled more brightly. Rin trusted herself. Sarah's connection with nature had deepened. Arya's kindness had reached even more people. And every member of Class 7Z carried memories that would last a lifetime. Kael quietly unlocked the classroom door. The students entered together. It felt like home. He looked at the smiling faces before him and said, "Welcome back." The class answered in unison. "We're home, teacher." Kael smiled. Outside, the wind gently carried flower petals across the academy grounds. A peaceful chapter had come to an end. But for the quiet God-tier teacher, and the 12 students who had become his family, many more adventures were still waiting. End of Volume 2. Thank you for listening to II Fiction Stories. Please like, comment, share and subscribe. See you next time.